This is Ross Feingold on the Taiwan Hashtag program, hosted by Storm Media, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. Today we're going to be talking about last week's significant foreign policy and National Day political events here in Taiwan. Why are we talking about this? As we discussed in previous shows, we were going to look back at the National Day address by President Tsai. National Day, October 10th. We talked about the history, why it's celebrated on October 10th, and why in China it's October 1st. Two different holidays that are coincidentally in October. October 10th was the anniversary of the revolution in China to overthrow the Qing dynasty and establish the Republic of China. When the Republic of China government shifted to Taiwan at the end of the Civil War, they continued to celebrate that National Day here. And over time, you know, this doesn't really have a lot of connection for most people in Taiwan. They weren't born in China. Their grandparents weren't born in China. Only a small segment of the population still has that connection to China. But the name of the country is still the Republic of China. The Constitution is still the Republic of China. So that is the National Day that's being celebrated on October 10th. President Tsai, as presidents always do here in Taiwan on the National Day, they give a big address in conjunction with a parade that included both military equipment, soldiers, impressive displays of Taiwan's military capabilities, along with civil society organizations, dancers, singers, and other types of artistic performances to showcase the culture of Taiwan. So that occurred again on October 10th here, again, just as it did in previous National Day. So nothing different in the from the perspective of what was on display. Of course, the government will say we had some newer, more impressive military equipment, but from the public perspective, I think it's fair to say we've seen this all before. So the focus tends to be on the content of the president's speech. As we previewed last week, how often was she going to say Republic of China? Was she going to emphasize Republic of China? Because that's been a theme of the president's public addresses, especially when it's in relation to how China and Taiwan conduct their relationship. So she said Republic of China not once, twice, three, four, or five times. In fact, I searched the English version of the address, which is available on the presidential office website, and I got a return of 8 times. 8 times she said Republic of China. Sometimes it was Republic of China with those parentheses, Republic of China, Taiwan. But she did say it 8 times, and that is a very, very effective way to counter the criticism from the Kuomintang and her political opponents or the media and the talking heads like me, who might say that she doesn't respect the constitutional structures of the Republic of China. So credit for President Tsai and her speechwriters. They emphasized the Republic of China, and that's to distinguish the Republic of China on Taiwan from the People's Republic of China on the mainland, which is trying to claim that Taiwan is a part of the People's Republic of China. It's never been so, in fact. So a very effective aspect of her speech. There will be no way for the Kuomintang or Han Kuo-yu, the Kuomintang, their presidential candidate, to say that the president didn't emphasize that this was the National Day of the Republic of China. In fact, we went back and looked at the previous National Day speeches by President Tsai, the one she delivered in 2016, 2017, 2018, and she did not mention the Republic of China as many times as she did in the 2019 National Day address. So in previous speeches, maybe it was there 3 times, 5 times, but it was not something that was emphasized. Clearly, it was emphasized this year. Why? From the start of this year in January, President Xi Jinping of China, he proposed one country, two systems, Taiwan plan, and that's been rejected by everyone in Taiwan across the political spectrum, with only a few minor exceptions for pro-unification political parties. So it's a very effective tool to emphasize Republic of China. It's been in continuous existence since the revolution in 1911. And unlike the previous speeches, this year it's certainly very timely. Again, there's an election coming up. Now we're about 3 months away from the election, January 11, 2020. So typically the Kuomintang candidate will say the Minjindang, they don't respect the Republic of China. They're against the Republic of China. They want to replace the Republic of China with a different country called the Republic of Taiwan. President Tsai can counter that very easily. And I say, look, I talked about the Republic of China throughout my speech. I mentioned it repeatedly 8 times. So taking that challenge away, or that weapon away from the Kuomintang, again, very effective aspect of the speech. She did mention one country, two systems. She said, we reject it. So another emphatic rejection of that. She also mentioned the ongoing protests in Hong Kong. She said Hong Kong has devolved into chaos. So again, very, very effective to remind the voters of Taiwan that the current government here in Taiwan, the government of the Kuomintang, President Tsai, they are against one country, two systems. They're against the 92 consensus. They do not want Taiwan to come into a situation like Hong Kong is experiencing now with the one country, two systems not being respected by China. So good to remind the voters of that once again. She's been doing that continuously throughout this year, and especially ever since June when the protests in Hong Kong began and as they've continued in their intensity. Yet another reminder, and I would expect over the coming 3 months as we get towards Election Day, President Tsai and her team will continue to emphasize these themes. They will continue to emphasize the Republic of China on Taiwan, so that'll be a talking point. They'll continue to emphasize rejection of one country, two systems. That will be another talking point. They'll continue to emphasize that Hong Kong is suffering from a lack of democracy or the encroachment by China into Hong Kong's internal affairs, and that we don't want that here in Taiwan. The polls seem to indicate this is effective. Of course, Han Kuo-yu has not been a very compelling candidate. He's had some challenges with articulating what he really stands for. That's another factor in President Tsai's widening poll lead. But the foreign policy or the China issues that she emphasized in her National Day address, very effective, it seems, for voters. What is something that seemed to not get as much emphasis in this National Day address compared to past National Day addresses? The policies of her government. Very interesting. So if you look at past National Day addresses, there were some very specific, or in English we might say granular, references to many of the policies. The fact is, President Tsai, when she was elected in 2016, simultaneously, her party, the DPP, took a large majority in the Legislative Yuan, Taiwan's parliament. They could pass whatever legislation they choose to pass, and they have used that. Well, that's the political capital you get when you win an election and you have unified government between the executive and the legislative branch. So they have passed a wide range of legislation, whether it's for elder care, to go after the Kuomintang's ill-gotten assets, other things on national security to counter China's meddling in Taiwan, infrastructure, things to encourage industrial policy in specific sectors like technology, medical devices, defense manufacturing. All these very specific things did not get as much emphasis in this year's speech because there was so much emphasis on protecting Taiwan's democracy, countering China. One country, two systems is not acceptable to the people of Taiwan. So that may also be a result of what we saw last year. A year ago in November, there was the local election when the Kuomintang, the DPP, Democratic Progressive Party, did very, very poorly. The Kuomintang, the KMT, did very well, including the election of Mayor Han in Kaohsiung. And largely this was because of a reaction to the policies of the DPP, of some of those specific policies. So maybe their strategy is changing going into the last few months of the election. Not going to emphasize so much these specific policies. Some people might get hurt. There's always winners and losers, whether it's tax policy or even infrastructure policy. You decide to extend a railway in one area, that probably means someone else didn't get a railway extended where they live. Be that as it may, it seems that the theme is going to be emphasizing the China issues. We don't want one country, two systems. We don't want to be like Hong Kong, as well as emphasizing relations with the United States and other like-minded countries. And that was another significant aspect of events last week here in Taiwan. Last Monday, a very senior State Department official was in Taiwan. She's responsible for U.S. policy in the Oceania-Pacific region, as well as for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. So it's a senior American official for APEC as well. Taiwan is a member of APEC. It is a full member, although they have to use the name Chinese Taipei, but they do participate as a member with the same status as China and all the other members of APEC. Not a precedent. So if you read any news that says it was a breakthrough or a result of the Taiwan Travel Act, that is not accurate. This level of official has visited Taiwan multiple times. No breakthrough there. But she was here for a one-day forum on relations with the Oceania region, with the Pacific region. Unfortunately, Taiwan has lost two countries that formally recognized it, Kiribati and the Solomon Islands, just in the last month. So the timing may have been coincidental, but the discussion was emphasizing how the United States can cooperate with Taiwan to do more good things and counter China's malign influence. The problem for Taiwan, only 4 countries left in this region who are going to be accepting these kinds of aid and other development assistance packages from Taiwan or working jointly with Taiwan and the United States on these kinds of things. So something to watch whether or not any of those 4 countries change. Will this kind of forum have any impact on their decision making? Maybe for some of the 4, but not all the 4. There's certainly speculation that at least 1 or 2 of those 4 might switch sides the way Kiribati and the Solomon Islands have. So it remains to be seen what the impact of that visit was. Other significant visitors here in Taiwan last week. Well, there was a government forum to discuss Taiwan's successes with the new southbound policy, an important initiative of Tsai Ing-wen as far as its relations with ASEAN, India, Australia, New Zealand, and countries in the south and southeast part of the Asia region. So there's a big forum. Who were the guests? Former Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Very interesting. A bit conservative, certainly far more to the right than the Democratic Progressive Party is, the ruling party here in Taiwan. He was the speaker, an expert on Southeast Asia or the countries covered by the southbound policy. I think it would be fair to say not really, other than whatever interaction he had with these countries during his tenure as Prime Minister. But in his speech, he didn't really talk about Taiwan's relations with these countries or what Taiwan could do in these countries. He talked more about his book. Another important visitor who was here for the forum last week, former White House spokesperson Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Again, very conservative. She was a spokesperson for Donald Trump in the White House. Her political positions a bit divergent from the Democratic Progressive Party on social issues. I think it's fair to say that. Obviously, a good decision by Taiwan to bring her here as far as someone who does maintain excellent relations still with the White House, somebody who might go into political office. There's rumors she's going to run for governor in Arkansas, so if she becomes the next governor of Arkansas, she'll visit Taiwan. So it's good for Taiwan to maintain those friendships with politicians in the United States. Is she an expert on Taiwan or China or Taiwan's relations with Southeast Asia? No. So again, a bit unusual to bring her here for that forum. But it's clear that foreign policy issues are an important part of this election. And another important visitor in that regard was Ted Cruz. Yes, Senator Ted Cruz was here last week as well. Again, a conservative senator. His values are inconsistent with the DPP's values on social issues, but of course a very outspoken supporter of Taiwan, a very outspoken critic of China's policies generally, whether on trade or in the Indo-Pacific region. So he was welcomed here to Taiwan as well, notwithstanding his policy differences with the government of Taiwan on many, many issues. I'm Ross Feingold, and you've been watching Taiwan Hashtag on Storm Media.